This is DEATHinitely episode 10. I'm your host, Jordan Millbrook. Just kidding, it's Allison.
Last episode of the season. Death.
All right, same page, finally. Same page, 10
page.
episodes later.
Welcome, and thank you for being here for this episode of DEATHinitely, the show that takes death seriously so you don't have to. I'm your host, Allison Danger, your internet death daddy, your textual terminator, your king of the cessation correlation, who's on a quest to learn everything about death and pass that knowledge along to you. As the researcher of the repose, the linguistic legacy learner, the lady who puts the fun in funeral for your ears.
That was
pretty fantastic.
That was a lot, Allison. For the last episode of the season, that was a lot.
But also so good.
It was very fun.
Today's episode?
What is today's episode?
Famous last words.
That's what I thought.
With me as always, quips from the Peanut Gallery, editor-producer, Jordan Middlebrook.
Thank you for having me, Allison. I really appreciate you letting me be a part of this amazing, I was going to say system. That's
Endeavor?
Endeavor? That's good. I've enjoyed every step of the way.
I've enjoyed endeavoring with you.
I've definitely enjoyed everything.
Oh, he did it, guys. DEATHinitely is now available on all your favorite podcast services, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and many, many more. Click the link in the show notes to see all the places that DEATHinitely can now be found. DEATHinitely is a show that talks about death. Make sure you're in the right frame of mind to listen.
Allison, in this segment, can you explain to me the importance of legacy?
Well, the famous last words and the legacy they leave behind. So we're going to talk a little bit about legacy first before we dive into the cool quips from people from the past.
All right.
First things first, let's define what legacy really means. Oxford had kind of a clunky definition, but it is the long-lasting impact of actions, events, or people from the past that affect a person's present. What that really means is how a person, event, or action will be remembered and for how long. In the Song of Achilles, most of us know the main parts of the story, but Achilles' mother speaks to him before traveling to fight in the War of Troy. She explains to him that if he stays home, he'll have a loving family, but a small local legacy that will fizzle out after a few generations. Still, if he goes to fight, he will be alone with no heirs, but a legacy of his actions will last for as long as the gods' names are still known. We all know how that turned out because he chose a lasting legacy of his actions over a shorter one with his heirs. Something of the past has been transmitted over time. That's a legacy. The damn thing about legacy is that we don't always get to choose the kind we leave behind. Legacy is a really fickle thing, and it can have a positive or a negative impact, be it tangible or an intangible item, or even be done unconsciously or through thoughtful, conscious conviction. Like our friend earlier, Achilles. He knew what his choices were, and the result, he made a conscious decision of which legacy he wanted to leave. We use the word bequeath as an alternative to legacy, most particularly when there is something tangible to be passed on. It's used in wills to confer the transfer of money from a deceased to an assigned person, or in a body donation program, a person's remains are bequeathed to the academic institution of their choosing.
So bequeath is kind of like...
It's the action of giving that legacy.
So is it always attached to the idea of legacy?
Not necessarily.
So I could bequeath you my wisdom? I guess that's still kind
it's
of
still
a
legacy.
Oh, that's interesting. Now that I try to figure out ways to
now
bequeath
you can't
something.
do it, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
That's all well and good, but why? My favorite question, is legacy so important to people? We all assign value to different things in life. Some people value money, while others have a fortitude of character. Some of us have creative output or intellectual property we hold at a great personal or global value. A good question for the listeners is, what exactly would you like to leave behind for the world when you die? We all die. We can't escape that part. So why does legacy become so important? Psychologically, we see legacy as a symbolic immortality, part of us that continues to live on after we're long gone, something we, the deceased, held at great value. This value we assign to our future legacy gives our present self a sense of meaning. It allows us to live under the understanding that our lives have meaning because of what we have left behind. We think of our own legacies as investing in our futures, doing things in life so that in death, part of us will be immortal. Side note, if the transhumanist is right and we will be able to live forever using technology in the future, what impact will that have on our psychological need for legacy? The hitch in the giddy up is that creating a legacy takes effort. Money, time, elbow grease, raising a family, building a bridge, writing a book. In order to leave something behind, you have to have your basic needs met while you are living. In our own current Western culture, having your basic needs met means making money, so that you could infer that lower income people would not have the same opportunities to leave a legacy as those that are higher on the economic earning scale. How can you begin to think about what you'll leave behind if all your daily efforts are exerted on feeding your family or keeping the rent up to date? Seems really unfair to me that something so universally equalizing like death and legacy would be dictated by income. Words are a really great form of legacy that costs little, and in the age of Twitter and virality on the internet, don't always take a vast time to build. Take last words, for example. The last thing you say before you die, and will always be that, the last thing you ever say. Maybe it's the finite ability to be permanent in a world of impermanence. Maybe that's our fascination with it. So how about some famous last words? I've broken these famous last words into categories that will help give them some context. The first group of famous last words we have is historical figures. First one on the list, Ludwig von Beethoven. His famous last words are, "Friends applaud, the comedy is over."
Wait a second. He wasn't a comedian, though.
I guess he thought life was farcical?
Classic Beethoven.
He is a classic.
Oh, I get it.
Marie Antoinette. Her final words were, "Pardonnez-moi, monsieur," after stepping on the executioner's foot on the gallows of her hanging. She was one of the many wives of Henry VIII. Nostradamus. "Tomorrow at sunrise, I shall no longer be here."
This guy. No God.
He always knows. How does he do it? Oscar Wilde. "My wallpaper and I are fighting a duel to the death. One of the other of us has to go."
I gotta tell you, I can see the list in front of me of all the famous last words, Allison.
Mm-hmm.
That's by far the best because...
He's fighting his wallpaper.
Yeah, it's great.
Thomas Edison. "It is very beautiful over there." Winston Churchill. "I am bored with it all."
Yeah, same Winston.
Hey.
Not you, just
Sure.
life in general.
Mm-hmm. Napoleon Bonaparte. "France, the army, head of the army, Josephine."
Well, that's weird.
I think he was thanking his army, and I'm guessing Josephine was his confidant and lover.
Maybe, but I don't see any thanks in that. It's just weird.
He's calling out to them for help. I don't know. Napoleon was crazy.
I don't know.
Mahatma Gandhi. "Hey Ram," translates to "Oh God." Queen Elizabeth I. "All my possessions for a moment of time."
I get that. That's kind of poetic in a way.
Yeah, it's really smart. I like that one.
Your last dying words, you say something like that.
So there's a really interesting quote from, it's not the guy with the margarita restaurant, it's the other guy that's got tons of money.
Warren Buffett.
Yes, not Jimmy Buffett. Yes. I always get them confused.
Yeah.
And Warren Buffett has a very similar famous quote, even though he's not dead, about how he is the most wealthy person in the world, and the only thing that he can't afford to buy is more time. Karl Marx. "Last words are for fools who haven't said enough." Socrates. Crito. "I owe the sacrifice of a rooster to Asclepios. Will you pay that debt and not neglect to do so?"
So
the greatest philosopher of all time is worried about a chicken on his deathbed.
But what I find very interesting is that it's obviously been translated into English. And in English, it makes zero sense.
Maybe it was more poetic in Greek.
Doesn't anything sound poetic in Greek?
I think anything sounds poetic in anything other than English.
They speak Latin? Or
yes. Yes?
No?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
Romanche?
What's that?
I don't know what that is.
I'm so glad I'm here for this.
It sounded smart, though. God, your eyes went wide. You were into it.
It's very funny.
Yeah. This one's probably my favorite on this list, and it's Leonardo da Vinci. "I have offended God and mankind because my work did not reach the quality it should have."
I have to take a quick pause on this one, Allison, because you know that I host By the Wayside.
Yes.
And it's a show about introducing you to creative people.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly where you're going with it.
I speak with a lot of artists.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, I recorded an episode with an artist.
Mm-hmm.
2 artists, actually. And the thing that consistently comes up on every episode is that I am fully aware and fully believe that artists are perfectionists. No matter how any individual sees their work, saying, wow, this piece of work is good, this artwork is great, every artist will look at it and go like, nah, there's something wrong with it. There's something I don't like about it. This quote, the last dying words of Leonardo da Vinci, just solidifies
arguably like the pinnacle of artistic talent and thought.
And creative mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He still didn't think he was good. So did you read ahead to the upcoming side note? Because it talks about exactly what you just said.
Dang.
In true Jordan fashion.
I'm going to read the side note when we get to it.
Okay, well, you do that then. The last one we have on this list is the Honorable Harriet Tubman. Give love to the churches. Tell women to stand firm. I go to prepare a place for you.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's actually quite nice.
Especially if you know her history and everything she stood for. It's pretty great.
Side note, imposter syndrome is the fear that others will eventually uncover your perceived weaknesses and question your competence the same way you do. This fear is often associated with the tendency to mass attribute hard-won successes to external, random, undeserved factors.
There are 5 main types of imposter syndromes. The perfectionist, which Jordan astutely pointed out of Leonardo da Vinci. The expert, the soloist, the natural genius, and the superhero. The next group we have is the famous and infamous.
What do you mean by famous and infamous? I guess reading this.
Famous people or infamous people.
Okay, I guess I could have just.
You could have inferred it from the title, but
yeah,
let's spell it out.
I don't host the podcast. I edit it.
You're here for fun.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
Comic relief.
I'm just making notes.
We riff off each other.
What took
You're my riffer.
Riffer.
What a riffer.
What did you call that stupid made-up language earlier? Now I can't remember what it is.
Romansh? Yeah, I think it's a real language. I'm pretty sure.
Romansh.
I'm pretty sure it's real.
It's all Romansh to me, Allison. Oh. Famous and infamous people.
Steve Jobs. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow.
When he saw the price of all the Apple iPhones.
In the afterlife. He only gets an iPhone 1. That's what he was saying. James Donald French. And I'm going to preface his famous last words because he was a convicted murderer on death row, and this was right before his execution in an electric chair. How's this for your headline? French fries.
Because his name was French.
Yeah. Bob Marley. Money can't buy life. So in my research today, I actually found out that he died of cancer, but it actually started in his toenail. And it was misdiagnosed as a toenail bruise, but it was actually cancer. So his toenail cancer killed him. Isn't that nuts?
I knew it was cancer. I didn't realize it started in the toe.
It was in his toenail. Died so young. Joan Crawford. Damn it, don't you dare ask God to help me. Leonard Nimoy. A life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had, but not preserved, except in memory. Live long and prosper. This is attributed to his final tweet to all of his fans. James N. Rogers. Again, I'm going to preface it. He's a convicted murderer about to be executed by a firing squad. His last words were, "Bring me a bulletproof vest."
Side note. Sorry for yelling.
Why is he yelling side notes?
There is an inordinate number of people that were executed on the list. Easy to document their last words. However, execution as a punitive measure is currently only persistently used in the following countries: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, South Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, China, North Korea, Vietnam, and the United States. Also, we went through famous and infamous people.
Mm-hmm. And some historical figures.
And some historical figures, yeah, of course, right at the top. But now, the next segment, it's big-time scientists.
Yep.
Would you not consider some of these scientists to be famous people?
Yes, but I had to break them up into groups, and they seemed to fit better as far as the theme of their last words or how they viewed death in these type of categories. So it depended on how you wanted to sort them out. So the first one I have is Albert Einstein. I am at the mercy of fate and have no control over it. Albert Einstein had a lot of ideas about death, especially working in theories of relativity and math. He was a really interesting person to talk to about things that we may or may not understand, as he was a leading mind of things that most people didn't understand. Einstein did not believe in a personal God or traditional religious concept of an afterlife. In a 1954 letter, he wrote that, quote, "The word God is for me nothing more than an expression and product of human weakness," end quote. It's pretty telling.
Mm-hmm.
His views on death were intertwined with his understanding of physics and the nature of reality. He saw the distinction between past, present, and future as an illusion, reflecting his work on relativity. In a 1955 letter, after the death of his friend, Einstein wrote, quote, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only stubbornly persistent illusion. End quote. Einstein approached death pragmatically. When facing a fatal aneurysm late in life, he refused surgery, stating, quote, "I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It's time to go. I will do it elegantly." End quote. He continued working on scientific problems till the end of his life, leaving work on the generalized theory of gravitation unfinished. For a non-religious guy, he had a lot of thoughts about the end of life. While Einstein did not believe in conventional religious ideas about death, he maintained a sense of wonder about the universe and continued to ponder deep questions about the existence throughout his life. So it still seems a little bit, it's not magical, but he still seems a little bit in awe of the universe and all. Like, I don't think he thought he knew all the answers, if that makes sense.
I would say and or think that he had a very, not childlike wonder, but a human curiousness, an open mind curiousness to the wonders of the universe.
For all the things that he understood about the universe that most people don't, he still had such an appreciation for all the things he didn't understand.
And I think that's a very fitting thing that you've just said in terms of who you're about to talk about next.
Next on the list, Carl Sagan. His famous last words were, "Goodbye, Anne." Skepticism about an afterlife. Sagan expressed a desire to believe in life after death, but felt there was no compelling evidence for it. He wrote, "I would love to believe that when I die, I will live again, that some thinking, feeling, remembering part of me will continue. But as much as I want to believe that, and despite the ancient and worldwide cultural traditions that assert an afterlife, I know of nothing to suggest that it is more than wishful thinking." He's long-winded, but poignant.
Very poignant.
Yeah. He longed for more time, and as Sagan expressed a desire to live longer to witness scientific discoveries, spend more time with his family, and see how human history unfolded. He saw death as potentially cutting short his curiosity and his longings. He appreciated his life, and his perspective on death seemed to give him an extra motivation to appreciate life and stay alive. He wrote, "The world is so exquisite with so much love and moral depth, and there is no reason to deceive ourselves with pretty stories for which there is little good evidence. Far better, it seems to me, in our vulnerability, is to look death in the eye and to be grateful every day for the brief but magnificent opportunity that life provides."
That sounds like Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really kind of...
That's him.
Yeah.
That's him in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think if you put that on a list of things without saying who
like
they
match
were,
this quote to this person, you'd be like, oh, that's Carl Sagan.
that feels very much like Carl Sagan.
Saganese.
What was the word again?
Romanche.
Romanche. Yeah.
I don't know why that's so funny to you.
I don't know. It's very funny.
I don't even get like a chuckle for Saganese, but Romanche sends you right off the deep end.
Because Romanche, it's...
You got to say it, Romanche. Oh. Now I feel like Pepe the Prawn from Muppets. Romantic.
Romanche, okay.
Sagan wrote about missing his deceased parents and wishing he could speak to them again, even if just briefly. He acknowledged the very human desire to believe loved ones to continue existing after death. He faced death with courage. When Sagan himself was dying, his wife Andruyan noticed that he, quote, faced his death with unflagging courage and never sought refuge in his illusions. He maintained his skeptical, evidence-based worldview to the end.
Again, still sounds exactly like Carl Sagan.
So, which informs his last words that said, "Goodbye, Anne." It was his wife.
I hope you say really amazing things like that when I die.
He gone.
My last words. Where am I?
Whose baby shower is this?
What time is it?
Where am I? So the last person on our list, he actually hasn't passed away yet, or died yet, kicked off yet, gone to meet his maker yet.
He ain't gone.
He ain't gone. But he does fit into our list of extremely talented scientists. And he had some really interesting ideas about death and what that means for a person. So we're going to include him because it was really, really interesting. And that person is Neil deGrasse Tyson. A quote, really interestingly enough, I'm going to read you the quote and then I'll tell you where it came from. The quote is, "The atoms of our bodies are traceable to stars that manufactured them in their cores and exploded these enriched ingredients across our galaxy billions of years ago. For this reason, we are biologically connected to every other living thing in the world. We are chemically connected to all molecules on Earth. We are atomically connected to all atoms in the universe. We are not figuratively, but literally stardust."
I think that's the Stardust alliteration. Not alliteration, illusion? No, because it's not an illusion. I think we all understand that the science that we're all
made up of the same parts.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this long winded.
But he said Stardust, and it makes it all ethereal and nice.
It's like we're all in a Mario Party game. Woohoo! Stardust.
Neil deGrasse Tyson had a skepticism, or has. He's still alive. Oh my God, don't kill him with your words. Skepticism about an afterlife. He approaches the concept of life after death with scientific skepticism. He notes that while near-death experiences are intriguing, they fall into a realm of eyewitness testimony, which he considers a lower form of evidence. Neil deGrasse Tyson puts emphasis on objective truth. He distinguishes between personal truths, like religious beliefs, and objective truths that science discovers. He suggests that claims about an afterlife would need more than personal experiences to be established as an objective truth.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of scientific basis in how the world works. I think if you don't have the proper evidence of something existing, it needs to be more of something you can hold in your hands or something you can quantify.
For you maybe, but for other people that thing is faith.
That's fair. And I know that we've spoken about faith in the past, and I don't know if we've gotten too deep into the whole heaven and hell thing. I think I'm looking at it more so from Neil deGrasse's
point of view.
Yeah.
He needs more evidence. Before he can buy into an afterlife.
Yeah, of course.
Or something beyond what we currently experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great statement, yes.
Yeah. He appreciates life for its finiteness. Neil deGrasse Tyson sees the knowledge of our mortality as a motivating force. He has stated, quote, "It is the knowledge that I am going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive, the urgency of accomplishment, the need to express love now, not later." He has a very cosmic perspective, which often frames human life and death in the context of the universe. He emphasizes how the atoms in our bodies originated in stars, connecting us to the cosmos even after death. He focuses on legacy, much like we talked about earlier. Rather than fearing death, Neil deGrasse Tyson suggests focusing on what we can accomplish in life. He quotes an educator, Horace Mann, by saying, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." He does, however, still have scientific wonder and sees our brief time on Earth as an opportunity to explore and understand the universe. He encourages curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge as meaningful ways to spend our limited time here. What I was talking about earlier, it doesn't apply to the quote that I gave you at the beginning of Neil deGrasse Tyson, but he was asked by a family, this is a really beautiful story that I had learned about him. He had a fan, a young girl, I think she was 11 or 12. She's a huge Neil deGrasse Tyson fan. She wanted to be an astronaut. She was really into all of that stuff. She got diagnosed with cancer, and he wasn't able to meet her before she died. So for her memorial, her parents or the internet or some wonderful happening, they were able to get a hold of him, and they had asked him to write something that they could say or present at her memorial service. So he wrote this really beautiful thing. He wasn't going to compromise his ideas about the afterlife, but also he understood that it's a 12-year-old girl's funeral, and he's not going to stand there and pontificate about how, he feels about the religious afterlife. So he had this really beautiful speech, and you'll have to Google it. It talked about how she'll go farther. Her atoms and molecules, she was cremated, so her energy had been released into the universe. And that energy, it travels at a very specific rate that he quoted in this piece of literature. And he had said that she is now beyond our galaxy. Her energy is traveling that quickly. So not only did she get to go to space, but she will now go farther than any other human. And they read that at this little girl's funeral. So he was able to juggle the lines between what he believes and also honoring this little girl's wish.
What are you reading, Allison?
I've started my master's work in death, religion, and culture, so I have been diving into my reading assignment, articles, and chapters.
I know that sometimes I'll come into a room and you're nose deep in some sort of book, or you're on the internet
making notes,
your laptop, and you're like, look at me go! I'm
the notebook
learning.
And the laptop and the book and the article notes. It's a rich tapestry. And what are you up to, Jordan?
Well, of course, nothing's really changed with me. I am still hosting and recording episodes of By the Wayside, which is a YouTube show that you know that I host. I get
Definitely was on that show.
Yeah, or it was like the August 15th episode.
Yeah,
you were a
it was
guest.
fun.
Yeah, we had lots of fun. One of the things is you and I have a natural chemistry,
Whoa.
so
Don't let out our secrets.
it was a good segment.
Definitely wants to take death seriously so you don't have to, creating a safe and inclusive space that tackles the mundane, profound, and crazy parts of death that you don't feel like asking anywhere else. Listen, participate, comment, love, learn. We're happy you're here. This is the end of season 1, but we do have a bonus episode in the can to talk about next season's hot topics. So make sure to tune in for one last drop. Deathinitely is an independent show that is recorded on the ancestral homes of several Mississauga and Chippewa First Nations. We honor these Indigenous peoples, ancestors, and future generations on this land that we share with reverence and humility. I'm Allison Danger, your host. With me, as always, is Jordan Middlebrook. Our music's by Sound Bay. Thank you for listening to Deathinitely, the show that takes death seriously so you don't have to.
Socials, Allison?
If you like what you hear on Deathinitely and want to know more, check out the show notes for all the social connections and things like citations and links and all the other internet word noise.